So, just before Shadowlands launched, we got that famous cinematic where Nethanos was defeated and was like, I will now be reuniting with my queen. Well, we got into the Shadowlands, he is nowhere to be found, literally nowhere. Sylvanas even abandoned the jailer's side, yet Nethanos was still not there, and Tyrande taunted her about how Sylvanas didn't even know about Nethanos and that her master is keeping secrets. So, what does all of this mean? Where exactly is Nethanos, and is he even going to show up? Check out Gamivo, this video is sponsored, where you can get almost any game, DLC, Shadowlands, and 2-month game time at discounted prices. Use code DORON for an even larger discount by clicking the link in the description. Nethanos is obviously a really important character. Despite not being in Warcraft 3, he really is one of the oldest and quite established characters in the lore, and slowly but surely he developed quite a close relationship with Sylvanas. However, these past few years, he essentially became her right hand and was without a doubt her most important lieutenant and an ally. If Sylvanas was Regeras, Nethanos would be Kil'jaeden. It is quite obvious that he was in on the plan. How far in, we don't really know, but he was definitely aware of the Jailer, the Shadowlands, and what exactly Sylvanas has been planning all along the true mission. I'd say that even during BF8, he knew more about the Shadowlands and this life and death cycle than we do now, knee-deep in the afterlife. Well, fast forward to the pre-patch of the expansion, and Nethanos is just going crazy in the Eastern Kingdoms, being a completely obvious open target. Then Tyrande, the vengeful Night Warrior, strolls up and ends him in a very quick duel, and Nethanos is kinda glad, saying that he will be reuniting with Sylvanas, and really from this perspective it was obvious that he was just baiting, and Nethanos wanted to die so that he can go into the Shadowlands. The only reason he was fighting was so that he can cause even more mayhem, and that so these deaths would even further empower the Jailer. So obviously, as there was an entire cinematic, and not even an in-game but a pre-rendered one, he was without a doubt supposed to be a really big deal in the new expansion. I mean, he was in the pre-patch. However, we have gone all the way through them all. We saw all that Sylvanas had in store, and most recently she even ended up betraying the Jailer, yet Nethanos is nowhere to be found. There is literally not even a single clue, not a message, not anything. The only thing we got was the short exchange from the Ardenweald battle between Sylvanas and Tyrande, and I'd say this here might just be the key to the Dark Ranger's mystery. During the famous duel between the Night Warrior and the Banshee Queen, Tyrande taunts that she is going to end her like she ended her beloved Nethanos, and when Sylvanas hears this, she's visibly shocked, as if she actually had no idea that Tyrande defeated him or that he was supposed to be in the Shadowlands. This honestly was quite surprising, as thus far Sylvanas has been the all-knowing 5 steps ahead of us all the time, yet she had no idea that her closest ally was defeated months ago. Then, when Tyrande realized her shock, she gloats by saying, "Your master is keeping secrets from you." And then they go into a battle, and Nethanos is never mentioned again. I think that Sylvanas was actually hurt by this conversation, and that Tyrande's words did affect her and her ultimate decision to shoot an arrow at the Jailer's face. I know there was this entire "I won't serve," which was quite stupid but taken at face value, but it is obvious that this was just one link in the chain of decisions that led to her abandoning Zovaal. Now that we got the book, The Myths and the Fairy Tales of Azeroth, we learned that all along Sylvanas was manipulated by the Jailer, and while it seemed like they were working together, really it was the Jailer pulling the strings all along. Even years ago, before the entire thing happened, there was a vision of Zovaal hitting Sylvanas' good side of her spirit with a mace and keeping her soul in order to blackmail her. However, this all started unraveling further and further as we progressed through the Shadowlands. First, Sylvanas realized that, damn, Zovaal literally dismissed Denatrius like he was nothing, and the dude was like the most important ally of his that pretty much allowed everything to happen. Then, what further irked her was that Zovaal forced her to convert Anduin into a vessel in a very fast manner, and he essentially forced her to become Arthas and do the same thing to Anduin as Arthas had done to her all those years ago. Then the entire Nethanos realization happened, which I'd say was the last straw that ultimately made her realize that Zovaal does not care a single bit about her, which ultimately led to her betrayal. Now, I gotta say, in hindsight, this storyline does feel a bit stupid, as it seemed quite obvious from the start that Zowal was not a compassionate guy, nor did he actually care about Sylvanas or undoing some sort of cosmological injustice. This guy is like manipulation incarnate that lives in a place that is essentially hell. However, the official progression is that quite rapidly Sylvanas started realizing that she's not an ally in any way, and that this plan of breaking the mechanism is not something where she's an equal partner, but that she just had her role to fulfill, as Zowal openly said. Long ago, after the death of the Lich King, she created this pact with the jailer, and that is when she got her first mission. I'd say back then she may have been more naive, and she really put her full heart into this quest and even got her close ally Nathanos in on the job. Seeing how close they had been, she wanted to take him along for the ride, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was the one that instructed him to stand there as an open target so that he can be defeated and so that they can be fully reunited. However, I think Zowal, even at that point, knew that Sylvanas was not to be fully trusted, and he realized that by keeping Nathanos around, he's going to have an upper hand on her. I would say he knew if she got her closest ally with her, she would start growing more and more in power, she would gain more autonomy, and really the jailer only wanted to use her to the extent of her word, and I'd say he planned to discard her anyway, regardless of her betrayal. It would only happen a bit later on. However, you may be wondering, why would he just not end Nathanos and his soul? What is he planning to do with him? I'd say that he's actually using him for blackmail, as Zowal always does. Before, he had the half portion of her soul, which is now returned to her, as was shown in the cinematic, but now he has her closest friend that he can use. Zowal is a master manipulator, and blackmail is really one of his most powerful weapons. I would say Nathanos might actually be his greatest asset for his future plans. See, he wanted Sylvanas to betray him so that she can now reveal all the inside info to us, but he kept Nathanos so that he can use him as a lid so that she doesn't reveal all of the most important stuff. This goes in with my theory of how the jailer is planning to lead us into some sort of a trap later down the line, which he may also be using Anduin for. It is obvious he could have just enslaved Sylvanas and everyone else if she was to reveal information, but instead he decided to return the soul to her and just unchain everyone. Why? Why would he do that? I think this was all because he wants Sylvanas to actually reveal stuff to us to lead us into a trap unknowingly, but when she would be ready to just risk it all and lead us into some sort of a vault, he can pull out the Nathanos card and he can get her in line once again. Honestly, this speculation makes the most amount of sense to me. However, what will actually happen we can only see 9.2. Seeing that Nathanos had his entire cinematic in a pre-patch and he was mentioned in the Outworld cinematic, it is obvious he's going to be one of the major characters and that he's going to play some sort of a role. However, to what extent he'll be important, only time will tell. Thank you for watching. Check out what is the actual origin of the mob by clicking on the screen, and also check out Donald's Academy for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.